From a disturbing painting that'll make your skin crawl to recent footage of Post Malone messing with one of the most dangerous cursed relics in the world, here are 10 of the scariest cursed objects on the planet. Number 10. The Cursed Sarcophagus. One of the freakiest cursed objects in the world was recently uncovered by archaeologists working in Egypt. A supposedly cursed sarcophagus from the city of Alexandria was excavated, discovered to contain the remains of 3 skeletons that may have once been wrapped in gold sheets. The tomb in which the sarcophagus was discovered dates back to sometime between 205 and 20 BC. Preliminary examinations revealed one skeleton to be that of a woman between 20 and 25 years old, the second to be of a man between 35 and 39, and the third to be another man between 40 and 44. Nobody's sure who these people were in life, but the sarcophagus has been the source of much mystery. Egyptian officials had even suggested the sarcophagus could come equipped with a curse. Then again, if it was cursed, the people who opened the sarcophagus would be in serious trouble, right? Someone should make sure that they're all right. According to Fox News, nobody involved with the project has yet to suffer the consequences of a curse. But one interesting revelation is that one of the skulls was found with a hole in it, likely left behind by the oldest surgical intervention involving the brain in ancient Egypt, according to Dr. Zainab Hashish from the Ministry of Antiquities. Number 9. The Cursed Memorial. In colonial times in early America, weird, spooky happenings were a part of everyday life. That's especially true when witchcraft was involved. If you were accused of witchcraft, what would you do? Most of the women who were accused were arrested and executed without a fair trial. Back in the early days of Bucksport, Maine, the founder of the town, a man named Colonel Jonathan Buck, executed a woman he decreed a witch. Before the alleged witch died at the end of a noose, she cursed the colonel. She cursed him to always bear the mark of his awful deed. Well, this mark apparently manifested itself 75 years after Jonathan Buck's death, appearing on a monument in his honor. But there are a few different versions of the story. Some versions say the witch was burned and her leg fell and rolled, landing at Buck's feet. Another version is that she was never a witch at all, but in fact an ordinary woman who was pregnant with his child. That would be even more cruel of Colonel Buck. Either way, Buck's memorial is still standing in Bucksport today, with the mark of the curse visible on Buck's granite obelisk in a graveyard on Main Street. You can still see it if you dare to visit the town and go looking for the cursed object. Number 8. A Cursed Pot. Australia always seems to have its fair share of dangerous or bizarre creatures, but this time it's an inanimate object that caused all the trouble. After moving into her new home, Carrie Moran from Brisbane found a terrifying cursed object in her garden. She dug up what appeared to be a giant ceramic ball made into a small coffin. She since posted the photographs of her strange discovery on social media, claiming to be afraid that her new house is haunted. She didn't know what the object was, though her daughter did inform her that it was definitely full of bad energy. The strange pot, or maybe it was a type of ceramic coffin, proved large and heavy. Because Carrie was so frightened by the discovery, she reached out to the previous owners of the house to get to the bottom of the mystery. As it turned out, the pot wasn't cursed at all. Instead, the bizarre creation had been made by the previous owner's son during a pottery class in high school. She put the piece of pottery in the garden and let the earth reclaim it. At least that's the story the ex-owner came up with. The truth could be anything. The old owner of the house could have had more nefarious purposes for that strange and eerie piece of pottery. Number 7. Cursed Tablets. One place most of us know not to poke around in is any kind of old well or sewer. Even if it's not haunted, an old well can prove dangerous by tripping you and trapping you inside. But in this well, there was bizarre relics left over from ancient times. 30 cursed tablets were recently discovered inside of an ancient well in downtown Athens. The well has been dated back 2,500 years. It was being investigated by a team of archaeologists working with the German Archaeological Institute. They were researching the water supply for a nearby bathhouse that had been constructed in the 1st century BC. Even more interesting is that at least 6,000 ancient graves were found in the vicinity. The area had served as the primary burial ground for the city thousands of years before. But here's the deal with the cursed tablets. The German archaeologists explained that the ancient Athenians would sometimes place engraved tablets scrawled with curses inside of tombs or wells. This came from a belief that the souls of the deceased would carry the tablets with them into the underworld, where they would then present them to the gods who ruled there so that they could enact the curses. Basically, it was a way for family members to try and curse personal enemies by sending the curses with their dead loved ones down into the Hades. Not something I'd want to mess with, would you? Number 6. The Roman Ballista Ball Thief. In 2020, a stolen Ballista stone was returned to the Israel Antiquities Authority. The artifact was returned by the very thief who had stolen the Ballista stone 15 years earlier in 2005. Considering the thief had only been a teenager at the time and wanted to repent for his actions, there were no hard feelings. The teenager had been touring a display of the Ballista stones at the Jerusalem Walls National Park when he took one of the balls with him. These stones had been used by the Romans when attacking Jerusalem in 70 AD, part of the first ever Jewish-Roman war called the Great Jewish Revolt. Ever since stealing the precious object, the boy, who grew up and became a man, was cursed with guilt. He got married, had a family, and yet all that time he was cursed with remorse for stealing the 2,000-year-old stone. He eventually decided to clear his conscience, and that was when he returned the ancient artifact and thereby lifted his own curse. The man took to social media after returning the artifact, pleading for others to do the same, lest they be tortured by guilt until the day they die, and maybe even beyond the grave. Do you have anything you ever done that you felt guilty for? Go on, admit it in the comments section down below. And if you don't hit that subscribe button to stay up to date with American Eye, you might be cursed with even more guilt. Lift the curse and subscribe now. Number 5. The Crying Boy. Back in the 1980s, a huge number of people in Britain believed that a tacky painting called The Crying Boy was responsible for igniting people's homes and burning them to the ground. This mass hysteria resulted in thousands of paintings being destroyed in a giant bonfire. The painting itself looks relatively harmless. It's simply a painting of a little boy shedding a tear, painted by the Italian artist Bruno Amadio. The prints of the painting were mass-produced and sold throughout the United Kingdom. It was in September of 1985 when a British newspaper published a story about a couple whose house burned down, with all of their personal belongings being turned to ash while the painting of the crying boy was completely unscathed. There was a fire station officer named Alan Wilkinson who apparently knew of other cases where the exact same painting was the only object inside of a burned house not to have been scorched. That was when the curse was born. The day after the original article, the newspaper was apparently flooded by terrified readers scared that their house would burn down because they too had the painting hanging on their wall. Today, the painting isn't very popular anymore, though there never was any concrete evidence that the painting was cursed, or that it burned down people's houses. Number 4. The Ring of Sylvianus. The Ring of Sylvianus was found in an English field back in 1785. Some people claim the ring inspired J.R.R. Tolkien to create the legendary One Ring in the Lord of the Rings trilogy. But the truth behind the artifact is even stranger. The field in which the ring was discovered had once been a Roman settlement. All we know about the origins of the ring is that in the 4th century AD, a Roman soldier named Sylvianus visited the Temple of Nodens, perched on a hill above the River Severn. Here, the soldier gave praise to the Roman British deity once associated with hunting and healing, as well as dogs and the ocean. While at the temple, the soldier's gold ring vanished. Enraged, Sylvianus left money at the temple and beseeched the gods for justice. He wrote on a lead plate a curse for the man he thought stole his ring. Unfortunately, we don't know if the curse proved effective. All we know is that later, the ring was discovered, owned by a couple of farmers, then eventually connected with the cursed tablet written by Sylvianus in 1929 by the archaeologist Sir Mortimer Wheeler. Wheeler happened to be a friend and colleague of J.R.R. Tolkien, who at the time was a professor at Oxford University. Within the year, Tolkien was writing The Hobbit, where the one ring to rule them all was born. Number 3. Robert the Doll. Robert the Doll has been called the scariest cursed doll in the world. He's nothing more than a little boy dressed in a sailor suit, badly worn through the years. He has black and beady eyes, and he's also smirking, which is quite creepy. And according to Atlas Obscura, Robert has allegedly caused car accidents, caused people to lose their jobs, triggered divorces, broken bones, and made all kinds of other misfortunes. Robert is over 110 years old. He's currently housed at the Fort East Martello Museum in Florida. Before that, he was owned by an eccentric artist who received the doll as a childhood birthday gift from his grandfather, who purchased the doll on a trip to Germany. Robert apparently brought the doll, which did indeed have the same name as him, along with him everywhere. Robert would often blame misfortunes on his doll. As Robert grew older, the mishaps became more serious, and Robert continued to blame the doll. Some claimed that the doll's expression would change when they weren't looking. Some claimed to hear footsteps and giggling in the halls of Robert's house. And by the time Robert passed away, the doll was well known to be cursed. But don't worry, Robert the doll is currently locked up safe behind glass in the museum. Number 2. Post Malone and the Dybbuk box. It's not every day we get celebrities mixed in with cursed objects, and yet Post Malone was just a little while ago caught messing with one of the most well-known cursed objects in the world. You'd think someone like Post Malone would know better than to get anywhere near a cursed object with a dark history, but apparently he thought he wouldn't be affected. The rapper was at Zach Bagans' Haunted Museum in Las Vegas checking out the infamous Dybbuk box, which allegedly contains a malicious spirit known for possessing people. At the rapper's request, Zach lifted the protective case away from the box for the first time since he owned it. Zach, who's an experienced supernaturalist, even went ahead and touched the box while Post Malone was touching him. That's why the curse transferred to the famous rapper and a string of strange misfortunes started. Afterwards, Post Malone's private jet almost crashed, his Rolls Royce was totaled, and he was allegedly targeted by a gang of armed criminals. Whether this had anything to do with the Dybbuk box or not, well, we may never know. The box itself came to America after surviving the Holocaust, allegedly with a malicious spirit trapped inside. Number 1. Curse of the Maori Mask. Maori masks were worn by the ancient tribes of the Maori who once dominated modern-day New Zealand. The warriors painted and carved the masks before going off into battle. Each warrior had their own face, and no two masks were ever alike, and they struck fear into the hearts of their enemies. Well, the legend states that when a warrior died, their spirit would live on inside the mask forever. Some of these masks are believed to be cursed. At the Museum Te Papa in New Zealand, there is a written warning that asks pregnant women to not go anywhere near the tour of the sacred artifacts of the Maori, which include their masks. This is because some people still believe that the Maori masks can cause pregnant women to befall misfortune. Unfortunately, the belief in the curse may be more dangerous than the curse itself. In 2007, a woman drowned after coming into contact with a Maori mask and apparently becoming possessed. During the exorcism to get rid of the evil spirit, the poor woman died. The lesson here is that human paranoia is far more dangerous than any ancient mask. Would you mess with any of these cursed artifacts? Or do you have any experience with cursed artifacts of your own? Let me know in the comments, and thanks for watching. If you haven't already, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe to this channel for more awesome videos right here on American Eye.